Hi guys, welcome back to Grace Engine Developments. Today I'm doing a Warrior cylinder head, which is off my friend Neil's Escort Mk2 race car. Basically, he was racing at Lydden the same time as what we was, but in the modified Fords, and had an egg gasket failure. He's brought the cylinder head over because, well, he was just going to replace the gasket and get on with it basically. But when he took the cylinder head off, he had some quite big tappet clearances that he wanted us to repair, but he was also concerned about the cylinder head face, and I don't blame him really. If I just turn the cylinder head over, I can show you what the problem is. So basically what he saw was these parts here, where whoever has done this must have had an head gasket problem, and they've skimmed the cylinder head with the inlet valve still in, because on most of the valves the machine has gone across and put a flat spot on them. But then what also happens is when the fly cutter tries to skim the aluminium or cut the aluminium, it hits the steel and it lifts it makes the fly cutter bounce like that. So then it puts these awful grooves straight across the cylinder head, which won't help the gasket sealing at all. Also, the surface finish isn't very good. So what I'm going to do is remove all of the valves, take the cam chain out. I'm going to cut all the seats. I'm going to try and repair these valves just to make them basically look better. I think they're okay. They're not thin, so I think I can get away with probably just modifying them slightly. Cut the exhaust as well. Give the cylinder head a skim, because it also looks like it's been running lean here. It's started to like pepper the cylinder head almost. It looks like it's been shot blasted, so that needs looking at. I'll do a quick hardness test on the cylinder head just to make sure it's okay. However, I know Neil's going to run it because these are just impossible to get hold of now. These are proper sort of 80s race cylinder heads. But yeah, this one, it's a shame really, because this head is beautiful, and someone's just not made a very good job of reconditioning it or building it. They've really cut a corner here. So like I say, I'm going to strip it, cut the seats, give it a skim, and then put the head back together and reset the tappets for Neil. The first thing that I'm going to do is take all these bits off that are not needed, and quite frankly I don't want them on there because I might break them. So if I just whip these bits off and put them in a box for Neil, then we know where we're at. So yeah, we'll get on with stripping it down. So I've just wire brushed one of these valves, mainly just to see if they've been marked before, because I want to keep everything in order. And yeah, I mean, so far everything has been engraved, so that one has too. But I would have thought you could see the flat spot on that valve. There's still meat there. I want to blend that in so it all matches really. But yeah, that's not great really. I mean, why someone would skim the cylinder head with the inlet valve still in it? There's no way they didn't know that. It just seems really bad, unprofessional really. That one's the same. You can see that one more there because the carbon on the face of the valve and where the head skim has been across that, it's kept it quite clean. I've got to run through the valve springs to make sure that they're okay. I'm going to run up the cams to make sure they're okay. So I'm now going to quickly strip the exhaust side and carry on with it. I can see that it's got a helicoil in it and it doesn't look like it's been fitted properly. So it's pulled a link out. So I might just pull that out and put a new one in that one there. So that helicoil there has been correctly installed, because the helicoil is one thread lower than the thread that's been cut for it. This one here has got one link of the helicoil above the thread, so eventually that will just start to pull out as that one has there. So I'm going to have to sort that problem out as well, because Neil doesn't want that to cause an issue when he's putting it back together. I'll get the exhaust side out and then I'll show you exactly what we've got left to work with. So I've got the Warrior cylinder head on the head skimmer. It's all set up. I've checked both ends to make sure it's touching there. So the next thing that I'm going to do is switch the machine on and see just how badly warped it is. I can see that it's had some welding done here in the past, but we definitely need to get these marks out where it's dragged the tool across the valve and lifted the tool. So I just made a 0.02 of an inch pass over the Warrior cylinder head, and I just thought I would show you what it looks like now. I don't know if the GoPro, in fact let me just switch the machine on. I don't know how well the GoPro is going to pick it up, but the head is warped all the way along there like that. And then you can still just about see some of the damage where it's picked up before on the inlet valves. I mean, they're nearly gone now. I can see some cloudiness in here. That's where the cylinder head's been welded a couple of times. It's been welded across there, there and there. There's still some detonation there. So I reckon that's probably going to need another 5 thou off it to get it flat and get these grooves out where the fire rings have bit into it. So we'll carry on. So I've gone over it and made it flat. It's had 5 thou off it now, but what it's got is where it's been welded before, there's tiny little bits of metal in the aluminium, and that is dragging across the cylinder head, which I'm not happy about that. What I'm going to do is just try and get a real sharp point and just get these bits out and then go over it again. I think the gasket will cover these, so I don't think it's too much of a problem, but I just want the finish a bit better than that. That's it, second final pass, and it's cleaned up lovely. I've got these little bits of metal out. There's one slight mark there, but that's, you can't even feel it, it's nothing to worry about. All the other marks have gone now. Whoops. So I'm going to clean the machine down, and then the next thing for me to do is to set it up on the Pro valve, ready to cut the seats and put a new seating angle on there. So we'll record that. So the next job that I'm doing on the Warrior cylinder head is just bead blasting the valves for it. So we don't actually bead blast the stem. I can't show you this really because it gets so dusty in there it doesn't pick anything up, but we bead blast all the coke off it, so from there down, bead blast the front, and then we polish the stem in the lathe and then reface it. So I'll record the polishing of the stem and the refacing, and not the bead blasting. I'm just now cleaning up the exhaust valves on the Warrior cylinder head. So what I'm doing is I'm using my shot blaster and cleaning up the back of the valve and the face of the valve. I'm not touching the stem at all, and then I'm running them up in the lathe at quite a high speed. I'm using some really fine emery paper, and then very carefully just run up and down the stem just to polish the stem of the valve. And then what I'll do is I'll take measurements then. So once I've done these, next thing is to give them a reface. So the next thing on the Warrior is, now the stem is polished and I've shot blasted them, what I'm going to do now is just clean the tops of the valves up and reface them. So I'll do that on time lapse. So that's the Warrior valves all reconditioned. They've got a new 45-degree face. The stems are polished and I've topped them. The exhaust was actually quite good, but 3 of the inlets took a little bit of machining to get them true on the face. I think that's also because the seats was quite bad on most of them as well, so the valve's not really known where it's going. So we can get that one built now. So I'm back on the Warrior, and I've got to set my Centronic up now to cut the seat. The first one I've got to do is the exhaust side. Now the important thing to do is clamp the head down, and then because the machine magnetises to this plate here, it has to be clamped nice and solid, because what you don't want is any movement, because it won't cut the seat true. And then I need to make sure that the face of the valve is roughly parallel with the face of the magnetic plate or the surface plate, because basically the Centronic has got some movement, but you don't want it cocked all the way over. You want it pretty much upright. So once I've done that, I need to find the right size pilot, which I've already found. It's that one. Screw that into the pilot holder on the Myra. And then the next thing we need to do is plot exactly where we're cutting the seat. So we use this tool here, put it into the valve, we'll put the valve into it. And then what I'm doing is I want to find the very outside edge of the seat, because if we find the inner edge, technically we're making the valve, the effective size of that valve, that much smaller. So if we measure everything off the outer and cut the seat to the outer, we're basically using as much of the valve area as possible. So I'm just plotting that on the valve like that. And then what I need to do then is mirror it onto the actual cutter. One thing we've got to make actually is on this seat cutter frame, the perspex that ran along here was white, so it diffused the lights. It used to be fluorescence in there, but we upgraded the fluorescence to LEDs, but the diffuser part of it we broke. So I've bought the new perspex, but we need to just cut it to size and then paint it white and screw it up to diffuse the light. And it really needs it because it's a bit glary at the moment when I'm trying to set the angle. So basically I'm trying to find the very top of the center angle, because this is a 3-angle cut. So what I'll do is I'll just plot that, and then I'll show you on another cutter. So basically on this cutter here, I don't know if it's picking it up. Let's see if I can see it. Try and use that bit of card. But on that cutter there, there's 3 angles. There's a top angle, that's the actual seating angle along the middle there, and that's the throat angle there. So we've got a 30, a 45 and a 70, and what we're trying to do is get it right on the very end of the 45. Once we've done that, I've got to centralise. Just turn that off. Once I've done that, I've just got to centralise the cutter, or the cutting head in the machine. And then place that in there. I'm going to have to wind it down, because the last one that I did was a cast iron cylinder head, so I just normally magnetise that direct to the head, which means the machine's just normally fully adjusted out. So I'll just wind this screw down. Now I don't want it where it's touching the seat, because it won't allow it to self-centre, but I do want it quite close to the seat. So a bit like that there. And then I lock the machine off, hit the button, and then basically there's 2 servos inside this Centronic, and they're moving from one end to the other to find the exact centre of the guide. Then the machine lets me know that the centre has been found, so I can lock the machine completely off like that. And then now I can use the Veradrive part again, but I just have to use it off this inverter. So it's a bit trickier to use at the moment, but I still like this machine, so at least I can use it. I'm just going to speed it up slightly. And I'm just going to bring the cutter down onto the seat, and then just speed the cutter up again. And that's it. And what that's put on is it's just ever so slightly put the bottom cut on, then I've got a really good 45-degree angle, and then a top cut as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'll set the GoPro to time lapse, and I'll rattle through the other 15 of these seats. Okay, so the next thing that I thought I would show you is just how bad these seats are on the exhaust side on the Warrior. First of all, I don't know if the camera picks it up, but if you can see, these seats here have got like a gold shine to them, where these are like a dull grey. These 2 are gold, they're gold. So basically at some stage it's had these seats replaced, but it's had quite a lot of welding in places, so I should imagine it's been in a blow up or something, and it's needed the 2 seats replacing. But all of these seats have been distorted, so that means it's been cutting off one side more, and I thought I would just show that on this one that I haven't done yet. So if I just set the camera up like that, and what I'll do is I'll just start to cut and then stop and show you. So I'm putting the seat cutter in, centralising it. Locking the head off. So this is just starting to turn the cutting tool around. So now I'm bringing the cutting head down, and then what I'm going to do is just get it where it just cuts the angle like that, and I'm going to back it off, switch the cutter off, and just show you how far out these seats have been. My customer's also complaining that this car should be around 290 horsepower. It's a 2-litre Warrior, which is basically a 16 valve cylinder head on a 2-litre Pinto bottom end. But all of these little things would contribute towards a loss of power, and I should imagine the cam timing might have been a little bit out. But if you look here, we've got the cut that goes all the way around here, and then if I come on this side of the seat, there is no cut at all. So basically, I mean, I've taken a slight cut off this as well, so it would have lowered the seat, which should true it straight back up. But I should imagine he was losing some compression through these seats. So if I go around, then you should see the seat cut. So straight away, I think that we're going to help find these extra few horsepowers that Neil's lost out of his Mark II with a bit of luck. Right, the next thing to do on this Warrior, it's all been through the cleaner, the seats are cut, the valves are faced. I've now put the the exhaust valves in the cylinder head. This is the exhaust cam box, cam caps. It uses tiny little bearings similar to what a Jaguar would run. I don't actually know what they're out of, but I'll make some notes of the numbers and find out. What I'm going to do now is torque down the cam caps. The first job I do when setting the tappets is these are a shim under bucket, so they use this little top hat shim which sits on top of the valve, and then this bucket here. So what I do, the first thing I do in thou is measure all of the thickness of the shims, and then I build it up, measure the tappets, and then straight away I can see that I can maybe jiggle them around to get them right before I actually get into machining or fitting new ones. So what I'm going to do now is just put some ARP grease on the thread so it pulls on the thread and doesn't damage the threads, torque that up, and then start to take some measurements. So I've adjusted the first few tappets that, shims that needed adjustment. I'm now gonna pop it back together and remeasure. Hopefully we've got it right first go. So I've done the exhaust side, I've built up the inlet side, so I've made a note of all the size of the shims, and I'm going to run through the tappets now.
So that's the Warrior cylinder head all done. I'm just waiting for Neil now to come and collect it. I'll flick it over. The tappets are all set. And then basically he's got to take the cam carrier back off to fit the cylinder head, because the stud holes are below that. So I've put the cams in roughly where they need to be. He'll just have to take the cam carriers out, make sure the tappet shims don't move out the bucket, and then put it back on once he's done that. So the head face is a lot better now. It hasn't got the really bad marks in it from where the cutters hit the inlet valves. I showed you that the inlet valves was quite a bit out and the seats was out. There's one little mark in it there which I can't actually get out. It's kind of every time the diamond goes over it, it's dragging something, but it's nowhere near what it was. It's pretty good. So what I've got to do now is just wipe off the build lube, wipe off this face, and then that's all ready for Neil to come and collect and fit back on his Mk2 Escort. I've left the front pulleys off because he's got to take all that out to get the head fitted, so he can fit that side of things and put the Woodruff keys in, the 2 oil seals, the verniers, and torque it back up. But machining wise, that's all done. 3-angle seats, valves are faced, tappets are set, it's all been through the cleaner, and hopefully it should do him proud. Right, thanks for watching this video, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. If you could hit the subscribe button if you've enjoyed this video, that'd be great, and see you later. So Neil's just brought down the Warrior Escort for me to do the cam timing on, and he's just got that running outside, so I'll show you what that looks like. The cam timing done on it. He's just warming it up. He's got to go back now and change the shims in his diff to set the right preload in the back axle, and then he's racing at the weekend. So best of luck to Neil at the weekend, and hopefully what we've done will improve the power.